Welcome back to another Wine Wednesday. It has been a minute. It has been a lot of minutes and a few weeks. So we have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to talk about and we have a lot to drink because I'm very thirsty. I haven't had a sip of wine since I got back from California, where they
That's crazy.
Pinot Noir from the New World, which is the topic today. Um,
Very exciting. But actually, Jana, we have a couple of new followers on Twitter, I know, and a couple of new followers on YouTube. Can you just talk a little bit about who you are and who we are? Don't
yeah,
you think that maybe we need to introduce ourselves to some of these new people?
Yes. Yes. So
Okay.
hi everybody who's new here. I am Jana Kryline and Dave told me today that I am shiny. So I'm usually not this shiny. That's a thing. I'm just gonna do the shameless plug. I just got back from running 10 kilometers. So Dave, what did you do today? Anyways, all right. So I'm Jana.
Yeah, I
I
didn't run 10 kilometers.
Yeah, no, you know what? It's not usually what I do in the middle of a workday, but I'll get into my background. So, my name's Jana Kryline. I'm one of the co-founders of dVIN Labs. I got into wine in 2000. Oh my God. 2011 really started out on the restaurant side, realized really, really quickly that I didn't know anything about wine, but I thought I knew a lot about wine. Ended up doing my sommelier education in Toronto under Master Sommelier Bruce Wallner. And then I decided that I wanted to move to Europe to get a foot in the door in the old world. So got to Europe, started working for a German winery, learned winemaking and vineyard management, did a couple of harvests, and then went back to school and studied on the academic side. Went all the way up through the WSET education system, which is the Wine and Spirits Education Trust, globally recognized, and finished their top tier or top level education. Wrote my thesis on climate change and winemaking and started a wine communication company. Built up my community of 70,000 people on social media. That was a lot of fun. Got to do kind of brand communication for some of the top wineries around the world, and then I met David Garrett. Take it away, Dave. Who are you?
Hi. So I'm Dave Garrett. I'm one of the co-founders of dVIN. My background was technology. I built a little technology company in the States many years ago and sold it, and then dumped all that into a vineyard and a winery in Argentina, and spent about 10 years there building that business. I've since moved here to Europe. I live in Barcelona. I'm a partner in a winery here, but a few years ago started dVIN Labs with Jana and Rodolfo and a bunch of my winemaker and wine expert and wine professional friends around the world. We kind of started as a community and have since turned it into a real company and a protocol. So got a lot of exciting things to talk to you about today. Thanks for joining.
Yes. And today's theme, guys, anybody who's been coming to these Wine Wednesdays over the past year or two, we have started an official program now. So we are doing a different grape or a different theme every Wednesday, and we're going to be very consistent. You'll be seeing a lot of us. So I hope you're thirsty. Bring a glass. If you're not drinking wine right now, and if you don't have the excuse that Rodolfo usually has, which is, it's 10 a.m. for him or whatever, then we encourage you to have a sip with us. We are drinking New World Pinot Noir today. So we're going to be talking about Pinot Noir and, kind of comparing it. What's the difference between Old World, New World? We'll get into a little bit about that. We will talk about the wines that we're both drinking. And then a little bit later on, we're going to do our dVIN updates. So everything new that's going on in the company. And then, of course, giving you guys an update about Bacchus, the coolest wine AI tool in the world by far. So, yeah, let's talk a little bit about Pinot. I know Dave drinks really good wine, and I think that he's a wine snob, but that's neither here nor there. So Dave has lots of experience in the new world. Look, Dave, you don't look impressed. You don't look impressed about that, Dave. But what you'll see, guys. He drinks very good wines, and he shames me for suggesting anything
No,
else.
it's not true. Not true.
No, maybe.
But where does Pinot come from, Jana?
Pinot is a very old grape. It's
Mm,
French, but it is a very old grape.
mm.
One of the oldest. We actually there's probably about 20 grapes that came from Pinot as it's mutated and been crossbred and things like that. So Pinot actually it's made its way around the whole world, and it shows up in many different forms and styles. But we're talking about New World. Should we compare it? Do you want to do a quick intro on
Yeah, I
what
mean,
Pinot Noir?
famously, Pinot's like typically, if you're saying I'm drinking a Pinot Noir,
Mhm.
that's coming from where? That's coming from
Burgundy.
either Burgundy or Champagne, right?
Burgundy, yeah. Hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
And so like all of the most famous, most expensive domains in Burgundy are making 100% Pinot Noir.
Hmm. But
Okay,
not in
cool.
Champagne, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but not in Champagne. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So
Okay.
Pinot Noir, super basic. Pinot Noir is a black grape variety, makes usually red wine, also makes rosés, and it's also one of the three main grapes in Champagne. So a lot of you might be thinking, if you're new to wine, Champagne is usually it can be rosé. Obviously, some of the best champagnes in the world are rosé, but usually Champagne appears white in color. Interestingly enough, and a lot of people find this to be a fun little fact, two of the main grapes in Champagne are red, so Pinot Meunier and Pinot Noir. But again, that is old world. But
Yeah, yeah,
Pinot
yeah.
Noir also has a bit of a reputation for being, I think a lot of people call it like the heartbreak grape. People also call it the chef's wine. So it's very versatile, but it's the heartbreak grape really because it is very, very finicky. It's very difficult to grow. It requires really kind of specific um, conditions in the vineyard. So it doesn't like to be too hot. It can't be too wet. It's got really thin skins. It grows in a really tight bunch, which means that when it gets wet, it tends to go bad quickly. And there's a lot of challenges in the vineyard. Like it likes sun, but it doesn't like heat, and so sometimes those things are very difficult to separate, obviously. And one of the things that also makes it a heartbreak grape is that even if you do grow it really, really well and you've got perfect conditions for it, once you get it to the cellar, also difficult because it's low in phenolics, and so it tends to be a little bit harder to work with, and can have faults and spoil a little bit easier. So if you're getting any of those like barnyardy Brettanomyces band-aid notes in your wine, that's a fault. Some people really like the barnyard thing.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of
If
like
you want a slightly like less technical description of Pinot Noir, Jana, before you were born, there was a movie called Sideways that
yes.
came out, and it was about like that's the movie where the guy says if they order Merlot, I'm leaving, right? And like caused basically the whole Merlot market in the world to crater. But what he was talking about was Pinot Noir. So if you really want to know about Pinot Noir, you can watch that movie and kind of get some very cool romantic stories from Paul Giamatti
He's
on
such a
Pinot
dick.
Noir.
In
What?
most of his not in real life, he's a great actor, but in like everything that he every character he plays, he's like so unlikable. But yeah,
Yeah,
he's very unlikable in that he ruined the wine industry.
he
Um,
ruined Merlot.
yeah, but that was really unfair. Merlot did
Yeah,
not
fair enough.
deserve that.
Okay.
Anyways,
Anyway, but have you seen that movie?
of
I
course,
mean, it's in
Dave.
it's in color, right?
Oh my god.
I mean, it came out, I think, I think before you were born, right?
No, wasn't it like
You were in grade school.
2004 or something? I was probably like, I feel like it was.
You were
I
like
don't.
8.
I
You were like 8 when that movie came out.
think you were about right.
Anyway, let's keep going. So basically, what you're saying is Pinot is like the most expensive wines from France, both white in terms of champagne and reds in terms of burgundies are made from Pinot Noir. And so what happened is people from all over the world said, well, if Burgundy can do it, so can we. And started growing Pinot Noir. And what we're going to talk about today are New World Pinot Noirs from the New World. Maybe you could talk a little bit about what makes up the
Yeah.
New World. People trying to like do what Burgundy does.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I've heard a few times that you're not supposed to say, like, the world is very woke, okay? Yeah, maybe we were going a little too far in that direction. That's fine. We're not gonna get into it. You're not even
Yeah.
supposed to say new world, old world. This is what I mean.
Oh,
Like, I don't
jeez.
even think you're supposed to be able to, yeah. When I was studying wine, it was like, don't say new world, old world. And now here we are writing it in all of our emails and promoting it as a topic. So if anybody has anything to say about that, I will take the blame. But yeah,
I think we're fine. We have freedom of speech here. We're on Twitter,
correct.
so full freedom of speech.
Oh my
We can
God.
say whatever we want.
Yeah. So
Um,
new world, old world. So what does that mean? Europe, rest of the world?
kind of, right? Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. Okay, so let's just talk about kind of if you were blind tasting, and Dave always says that I get too technical. So Dave, you're gonna have to like just cut me off if I do. But mostly what you're talking about is like nuance when you're talking about comparing new world to old world, especially if you're tasting something and you're, maybe you're a professional or you just really love wine and you like to test yourself and not know exactly what's in the glass and try and guess. So blind tasting with new world versus old world, especially with Pinot, most of the time, if you're getting really like floral, nutty, usually more like forest floor, refined wines, especially higher acidity, and like also lighter in color, usually they will say that you're in a cooler climate and you're more in Europe. So they tend to be more refined. Now, there are a lot of producers in the New World who are aiming to make Burgundian style wines, and that's kind of the where what I've been describing. So you will find some really nice, nuanced, aromatic, ethereal wines from the New World. But generally speaking, Pinot Noir from the New World tends to be a little bit richer. Tends to, I mean, there's a lot of now. Again, this is not well. I whatever. There's some wines from the New World that are Pinots will have like a cherry cola thing going on. This is not, I wouldn't say that this is like standard New World by any means, but there are some producers that love to go in that direction. I try and avoid those wines. Some people love them. There's no problem with it. It's not a fault, but sometimes that is something that you'll find more in New World. And usually you'll have more tannins, you'll have a deeper color, and a lot of the times the wine will have higher alcohol and a more moderate acidity. So yeah, I was a good example is when I was just in California, I tasted a Pinot Noir that was so like if I had looked at it, you could see because it was quite almost like transparent, but it was darker in color than the Pinot that you would normally find in Burgundy. So it was actually more like dense and rich. It had grippy tannins. It wasn't quite silky smooth. But yeah, it was also had a lot of like vanilla baking spice, which you wouldn't
So,
really.
Jana, what are you drinking?
That's
Like,
good point.
can we finally get to it? What are you drinking now?
Okay. I wanted to drink
Oh,
the
okay. Well,
hold on.
that's kind of cool.
It's really annoying that I've got that feature set on my camera
Yeah,
settings.
you can't turn out. Why don't you just tell us? Can you read it to us?
I can. Thank you, Dave. I can read it to you. You know what? I'm sensing a little bit of sass with you today.
I'm
Um,
on my second glass.
oh shit, Jesus. See, I was out doing sports and you were already into the bottle. Okay, so we've got a Sanford and Benedict Vineyard wine. It's a Deauvlet. It's a Pinot Noir from Santa Rita Hills in California. I'm going to try and hold it up again so you guys can see it.
That's
It's
super cool.
2019. So look, I was just in California, so I wanted to choose a Californian wine. It's really, really nice. I think Santa Rita Hills is one of the best places that you'll find Pinot out of California. Dave lived in California for a long time, so I'm sure that he's got lots to say about that. But what do you think about the Santa Rita Hills, Dave?
I mean, look, it's that makes certainly the best Pinot in California, in my opinion, comes from Santa Rita Hills. I mean, people from Sonoma might argue with you, but I really like it. I think it's good. I think it's the good stuff. But I don't, I didn't. I'm not a. I don't drink a lot of California Pinots. I feel like if I'm in California, I'm looking more for the, Rhone varietals in out of Paso, or, you know, Cab Franc out of Napa, or maybe Chardonnay out of Sonoma.
Oh my God, I
So
had the best Chardonnay when I was in California, but oh my God, we'll do that on another episode. Oh,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I would tend to like, I am a little bit snobby with regards to New World Pinot. Like, don't love California Pinot, although some are fantastic. There's a few Pinot makers that I just love. In Argentina, we actually had to smuggle, like, no fooling around, and I don't know if I should be admitting this on X, but we actually had to smuggle Pinot cuttings into Argentina because there wasn't any Pinot in Argentina when we were there.
what?
So we were one of the very first vineyards to plant vino. We had to get vino on the registered list of approved vines in Argentina. So this was 25 years ago, but still.
You're
Um,
dating yourself.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I kind of like, South Africa. We could probably talk about the,
Mm.
differences between Pinot and
Oh,
Pinotage and
too
like all
hot.
that stuff.
Too hot.
Yeah, but that's too much. So for me, it's really all about Australia. So
Here we go.
this is Ochota barrels. This is made by a friend of mine. Well, actually, it wasn't made by a friend of mine. So Ochota barrels is it's a winery from the Mornington Peninsula in Australia. When I was studying direct to consumer direct to consumer business model for wine, I studied a little bit in Napa because Napa was doing it right. This was in the early 2000s, and then I went to Australia, and outside of Melbourne, there's a little wine region called the Mornington Peninsula, and it's beautiful. It's perfect climate, perfect ecosystem, all limestone and shale, like really great for growing, super high end wine grapes. But you've never like you don't think about the Mornington Peninsula when you think about Australia. You think about Adelaide and Barossa Valley and Coonawarra. And the reason for that is because Napa is to San Francisco as the Mornington Peninsula is to Melbourne, and so in the same way that like most of the little wineries in Napa never like they sell 100% of their production direct to consumer, and you just never see those wines anywhere on a restaurant or at a wine shop, and you never hear about them. The same is true for Mornington Peninsula. They make some of the best Pinot Noirs in the world, but all of them go direct to consumer to people who like drive up to the cellar door and buy a case, or even restaurants or wine shops in Melbourne. They'll just go up, buy wine out of the cellar door, and they don't have an export department. They don't sell any wine outside of Australia, or any wine even outside of Melbourne. So some of the best Pinots in the world I've tasted from the Mornington Peninsula, but you've never heard of them anywhere. So
Yeah.
Taras Ochota or Ochota Barrels is one of those. The winemaker, this guy named Taras Ochota, super, super, super great guy. We were going to do a television show about him. Surfer, farmer, like long hair, hippie winemaker, super artistic, like really, really great guy. He has Ochota is a little farm where he lived with his wife. They did everything. They cooked and grew all of their own food. Every calorie that he ate was grown on his property. It was really, really fantastic. Like super, super great guy. And unfortunately, he passed away during the pandemic. And this is the 2021, and it's the first vintage that was made after he passed. And the reason that I have this and that I'm drinking this today is because after he passed away, like it was kind of in the middle of it wasn't in harvest, it was kind of in the middle of the growing season. And a lot of people were afraid that, like, because he only sold direct to consumer and it was such big news, and he was really young. He was like 50 years old, I think. And everybody got together, all of his friends, everybody got together and bought the entire vintage out, just so that, like, for the family, and because it was during during COVID, and like no one knew what was going to happen. So that's why I don't have any of the older Ochoto barrels left. I drank it all. So everything I have now is after he passed away. But he was really a rock star winemaker. Just one of my look him up, and just you can read stories about him. He's just like one of those one of those true you know true Renaissance men, and was just a wonderful human being. And the wine is just out of this world, out of this world. Still, this wine, by the way, the vines were planted in 1946.
Wow.
Limestone and schist, and they only made 5,138 of these bottles.
Oh, wow.
So very, very small number. Very,
That's
very small production.
okay. Well, I think you win this one, Dave. I have
It's
now
not a competition, Jana. It's not
well,
like a 10K.
it is 100% a competition, Dave. Like if you think it's not a competition, we're gonna have to take this offline. It is. So you
Okay.
win this one.
Okay.
But mine actually is also uniquely numbered. This is number 387, but it doesn't say of how many. So, little detail missing there. Yeah, anyways, it's a mine is fantastic. It's also, you know what? I have to say I I haven't had the privilege of tasting probably enough New World Pinot because I moved to Europe when I was oh my god, in my early 20s. So, and it's not as common, like you don't find a lot of really good examples over here because we have so much great Pinot in the old world. So I don't have a lot of experience tasting it. Obviously, I had to learn all about it in theory. And one of the things that I find really interesting is, or one of the or places that I find really interesting, if I'm looking, and I will actually go out of my way to look for this, is Patagonian Pinot Noirs. Really, really interesting. Also, I am Canadian. I'm from Nova Scotia on the east coast of Canada. And it's pretty interesting to see how climate change is affecting winemaking all over the world. I say interesting. It's not exactly a positive thing for most of the investment grade wine regions that we know today, right? But certainly there's new opportunities arising in different places. And Nova Scotia is a place that actually is making some really interesting, for sure, sparkling wines, like really starting to come up there and be more well known. Obviously, England, people are still like surprised that England makes
Yeah.
sparkling, so we're after that. But Pinot as well in Nova Scotia is interesting. And I read that Michigan, Dave's from Michigan, that Michigan makes Pinot. So I don't know about that, but
I
why
don't
not?
know either, but do you think that they're going to start making good Pinot in Germany?
Can you stop? They have been making excellent Pinot in Germany for a long
We'll
time.
put it up against the Michigan. Why don't we do a taste test with the Michigan and the Germany, and we'll see.
You should talk to your friend in the R Valley, Dave. I think you guys might have to fight this one out. And then just one more thing that I will say, New Zealand. I would say that New Zealand is like, if you want to take old world and new world Pinot and like smack them together and take the best of both, New Zealand has very, very interesting Pinot Noir. And I think we can probably call it at that. And we'll just keep sipping our wines. And maybe we need to start talking a little bit about what's been going on. Because I know a lot of you are looking for an update because we haven't done one of these in a while. So dVIN
Blockchain?
has
Let's
been
talk about
busy.
blockchain.
Yeah. Let's talk about blockchain. Should I give an update on California and then we'll dig in? Because I just did some cool stuff in California. Dave, are you frozen? Hopefully not on the live stream. I'm on my own, I think. Can't tell. Okay, so I was just in California and I was doing a couple different events and very, very cool. One of the things that we did, you look very surprised. Is that because you just fell off the live stream and came back, Dave? Can you hear me? Earth to Dave. Yeah. Well, that's fine. So I was in California and I was speaking on a couple of different panels. So I was speaking at an event called the Eve Wealth Summit. And after my panel, which was about how crypto and blockchain are revolutionizing industries, obviously I was there talking about how crypto and blockchain are revolutionizing the wine industry. And anyone who's been following us will understand why, hopefully. If not, we'll touch on that now. But following that panel, I got to host a wine tasting. And it was, I think it's easy to say, fair to say, that it was the very first wine tasting in the world that was completely planned by AI, which means by our AI, of course. So this was really cool. Basically, I gave our I gave Wine Guy the wine list at the Ritz, which is where the event was being held. I gave it the wine list at the Ritz and told it, I'm doing a wine tasting for this event. It's going to be this many people. I want the wines to be Californian, and I'm looking for, excellent value for money. I'm looking for organic wineries. I even said, like, give me a couple different themes that tie these wines together, like a storytelling thread that ties the three wines together, and give me several different options of three wines and a theme that I could use for this tasting. So did that within seconds. I think it was like 2 seconds. It spat out like 10 completely different themes with different wines that I could use for the tasting. And then I was like, you know what? I was very impressed, first of all, impressed with, we've been building this for over a year, but I was still very impressed. I'm always very impressed every time I go on because you get smarter all the time. But I was very impressed. And then I said, do you know what? I have a new idea. I actually only want wines that are from female winemakers because this was for a female event or a women led event. And so then, of course, it gives me like 10 new options that are all female winemakers. Like it was so cool. The coolest part, I have to say, was that it kept prompting me back and being like, but do you want printed tasting mats? Do you want more tasting notes? Like it basically kept asking me if I had enough for what I wanted to do. So it was really cool. I then did another AI plan tasting for GMI, which is one of Raul's big communities. And we did that in Santa Barbara, which was fantastic. And we did a totally different theme. We did French or Is It? And talked about the 1976 Judgment of Paris, which is a whole thing that basically put California and New World wines on the map. That was really cool. The AI totally planned that. And it was just like, it was really, really cool. So I think we need to take a minute and just talk about Bacchus.
So do you think, Jana, it's fair to say that, like, if you didn't know anything about wine, if you were one of like Raoul Paul's famous Cheeto eating couch dwellers, but like wanted to learn a little bit more about wine or wanted to like do a wine tasting with your friends, that Bacchus could help you like organize a wine tasting and make you look really smart?
Yes. Yes. And I think, like, I honestly am like, oh my God, Bacchus is going to put me out of a job. But yeah, no, you don't need to know anything. And I think that's the best part is that you actually don't have to be afraid to ask Bacchus anything stupid, like, or Wine Guy. So it's actually a swarm of AI agents. There's actually 5 different agents that each do something specific. And then they kind of like represent themselves as one or as like a certain character. So we've got Wine Guy who's on Telegram. So you're always, whenever you're interacting with either Wine Guy on Telegram or Bacchus on X, you're always getting that full swarm. And they're just kind of like giving you the response in a bit of a different way. So Wine Guy on Telegram is really cool because he's got memory. And it's actually, he's remembering everything about what you like and, what you're drinking. Eventually you're going to be able to upload a CSV file with everything that's in your personal collection, and he'll give you real, like, live market insights. And eventually, you'll give him a budget and a wallet address, and he'll trade for you. He'll trade wines for you.
Or one of the things that if you don't have a personal wine collection at home, but you go to a restaurant and you're like, I don't know what to order at this restaurant, you can take a picture of the wine list and Bacchus will tell you what to order. He'll tell you like either what's the best deal on the wine list or what's the most rare on the wine
Mhm.
list. And also tell you a couple of things about that wine, tell you what kind of food to order with it. Like the whole idea is really, really plus up your wine game. And then obviously, most important thing is like Bacchus, unlike the som at your favorite restaurant, is always with you. So every time you have a wine experience and you talk to Bacchus about it, Bacchus is going to remember that. He's going to remember what you like, remember what you don't like. And, really tune the advice or tune the feedback to like your particular tastes, which is kind of cool. And
Wine
fun
guy
and
is
new.
going to remember. Bacchus doesn't have memory. Bacchus is on X. Bacchus is right now very much about attention. So Bacchus is like, he's not going to remember, but Bacchus is going to roast you if you're interested in, you know, feeling humbled. He will roast the shit out of you. So be careful with Bacchus on X, but he's hilarious. Very smart. So if you're looking for investment insights, real-time market data we have so much proprietary data. It's just incredible. If you take a look at Bacchus_dVIN on X, oh my God, it's very, very impressive. But Wine Guy will be your pocket sommelier who's with you everywhere on Telegram. And one quick story that I have about Wine Guy on Telegram this was a couple of weeks back. I was at a restaurant here across the street, one of my favorite restaurants. And I'm like, you know what? There was this Italian wine on the list and I was really interested. I wanted to drink a Montepulciano. And I'm looking and I'm like, the price seems really off on this. And I'm thinking like, this is weird. Like the DOCG version of the wine or the DOCG from that producer was like,
What's DOCG?
it's the highest classification that you can get. It's a controlled origin and it's the top classification that you can get in Italy.
Interesting.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
Can you pronounce it in Italian?
Denominazione. Oh fuck. Oh God. Denominated origin of. I can't pronounce it until my husband's looking at me right now. Like, don't.
Got her.
You got me. You go.
No, I can't do it.
Ugh, you're annoying. That's just not. This is what I live with every day, guys. So anyways, yeah. I'm like looking at the price list and there's something weird. Like the lower classification was priced, like the pricing was all wrong. So I'm like, I asked Wine Guy, I'm like, hey, these are all the wines. Can you tell me what is off here? And Wine Guy was like, value for money. There's a mistake in the list. Like he basically called the mistake in the list and was like, definitely order that one. They listed it wrong and like order it every time, basically. It was very cool. So that I should probably let that restaurant know, but I'm not going. I'm not.
Awesome.
Yeah. Anyway.
So Jana, we're getting close on time. We only have like 5 more minutes left. Do you want to just like give an update of where we are and what we're doing and what's coming?
Oh my gosh. Well, where do I start? So yeah, we are right now. One of the really interesting things that was just announced was our strategic partnership with Liquid Mercury. So we have got plans, very big plans, I will say, and we have had these plans for a while coming to fruition. Just announced a really big partnership. So we are going to be basically creating a global order book for wine. This has been one of the most ambitious and exciting things that we've kind of set out to do from day one 4 years ago. And we've now got a real solid strategic partner who's going to help us power a whole bunch of marketplaces around the world that are going to talk to each other, right? So we're actually using blockchain to solve something. We're not building all these little silos that don't talk to each other because that's Web 2 and this is Web 3. So we are actually going to be starting to power marketplaces all over the world, and people are going to be able to, you know, start to see real transparent prices, and there's going to be price discovery eventually that comes out of this. Global unified liquidity for wine is the end goal. So yeah, so we're basically going to be starting to launch a bunch of different marketplaces with our partners all over the world. So dVIN and Liquid Mercury will be powering a whole bunch of wine merchants around the world. It's very exciting. You're going to be able to trade your wines globally between totally different merchants. You could never do that before, guys.
But Jana, do prices of wine really change that often?
Okay. So probably the most exciting thing about what we're doing, and actually we're doing a lot, like dVIN is like I said, we're a little bit ambitious. So understatement. One of the most exciting things about what we're trying to solve in the wine industry is, well, one of the most interesting things about wine as an asset class is forced scarcity, right? So you have limitations to how much wine you can make in the best investment grade wineries in the world, right? Like Burgundy, there's real borders. And there's weather and there's all these things that can happen. We talked about how finicky Pinot Noir is. Like if you can't make more that vintage, there isn't going to be more. Like you can't just expand the boundaries and make more. Forced scarcity is a real thing. So imagine you have got a bottle of Domaine de la Romanée Conti, one of the best wines in the world, one of the best producers. Imagine now they're, let's say, I don't know, 2014 DRC is, maybe there's 3,000 bottles left on Earth. Maybe, it's probably not even. And I open one, and now there's one less. All of the other ones go up in value, right? Especially the ones that have been stored in pristine conditions. So you're going to want to know how many wines are left out there of this exact, from this exact producer in this vintage, and like, what is the real price for this? And when there's one less, the price goes up for all of the wines that are stored in the same condition, right? Never happened in the history of wine. Very exciting.
That's very exciting and very cool. But can I do a 2-minute rant that can be our clickbaity title on YouTube when this thing goes out?
Yes.
So that bottle of DRC last week would have sold for whatever, X number of dollars, probably $6,000, $7,000. And then on Saturday night, the President of the United States tweeted that he was going to impose 200% tariffs on European wine in the United States. And in any normal, rational market, that would have, if wine had been a normal, rational market and a fluid market with universal liquidity and global price transparency, the market in European wine would have moved by $1 billion. Easily $1 billion overnight, because those tariffs are going to, we were talking about this the other day, but just the tweet probably put maybe 10,000 companies that work in wine around the world out of business. That tweet, probably. When you think about it, like 200% tariff is an enormous number. If the tariffs actually happen and there's a 200% tariff on European wines, you can bet that probably 1 million companies will go out of business because of it. And let me give you just a little example, right? Italian restaurant in New York, around the corner. It's mostly Italian wines. They, that any small independent restaurant that has high-end wines, they probably make 75-80% of their profit margin on wine sales. So a 200% markup on Italian wines for that little restaurant, the restaurant goes out of business. They don't even try, right? They would just fold tomorrow. And there are thousands of those businesses all over the world that, because of that 200% tariff, will completely shake up the business, completely shake up the market for years. So, and I'm not suggesting that the tariffs are a bad idea. I don't love them. I mean, I think anybody in the wine industry would say, tariffs on wine, bad idea. But that's not the point. The point is because, because wine hasn't had the same treatment as other asset classes, it's impossible to protect yourself against it. Orange juice. And I made this comment the other day, like frozen concentrated orange juice is $1 billion spot market. Big market around the world. Most orange juice, they freeze the orange juice, they send frozen concentrate, and then, when you buy it at the grocery store, it's made from concentrate. So when it's shipped around the world, it's shipped frozen in concentrate. That's about $1 billion a year market in spot. However, during the course of a year, it's a $12 billion futures market, right? $12 billion worth of frozen orange juice futures are traded for $1 billion worth of spot frozen orange juice. And the reason for that is because, sometimes there's frost in Florida. And when there's frost in Florida, there's going to be significantly less orange juice, and the price goes up. And all of these companies need to protect themselves in case the price goes up, because, if the price is radically different in the grocery store, that totally changes demand and supply, and it screws up their business. So businesses have figured out a way, and this was 50 years ago, figured out a way to protect themselves against crazy price fluctuations in the frozen orange juice market. But we still haven't figured out how to do that in luxury wine, which is 100 times bigger market. So what we're trying to solve is that. How can we figure out a way to help these 10 million businesses around the world protect themselves against violent price swings, be able to treat wine like the asset that it is? Because there are so many businesses out there where the whole business is dependent on the price and availability of luxury wine. So that's just my little rant for today. You know, like snatched from the headlines, Jana. Snatched from the headlines.
Dave's hints are really, really subtle. Like, when this goes into post-production, this is your headline. You could just say that. Okay, got it. Note received. You guys will see this in the headlines tomorrow. Okay, so very, very, very interesting. And, there's a lot of very big businesses that can be built on top of what we're doing, actually. So solving a lot all the way from grape to glass. We'll dig into all the different kind of things that the dVIN protocol solves, and all the big plans that we have over the course of the next Wine Wednesdays. And of course, we will have wine themes to go with those. So, if you're not interested in the wine banter, maybe tune in halfway through. But still, bring a glass. I know you guys, I know you DGen have questionable taste in wine. I've seen it firsthand, so you probably should show up for the whole thing. Let us teach you. On that note,
Bye,
go
everybody.
check out Bacchus. Oh, and one more thing. We are doing another really big thing right now. That is, we are completely rebuilding our app to be multi-chain, multi-wallet. Stay tuned for that. And of course, stay tuned for the marketplaces that are going to start popping up around the world. And really appreciate all you guys, especially our new followers on X, and shout out to Super Team. We've definitely been seeing some growth through you guys. So great Solana ecosystem partner. Thanks, guys. And we'll see you next Wednesday at the same time.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Enjoy your wine.
I
Bye.
will. Bye.